Will AI take over human storytelling? Are we standing at the precipice of a world where all of our creative works will be made by an invisible robot brain in the cloud? Are we about to hand over the reins of storytelling, one of the core connectors which makes us all who we are as a species, to artificial intelligence for good? AI is a big topic in Hollywood right now, and for good reason. It's a big topic everywhere. AI is evolving so quickly that I'm not sure we as an industry have begun to grapple with all the different issues that we are facing. In some cases, we can't even agree about what to be concerned about. Some people are worried about the entire industry evaporating, or at least entire segments. Others are excited about the possibility of making movies faster and cheaper. Even within a single group, opinions on AI differ. Some actors, for example, are disavowing AI. Some are protecting their likeness, and others are even creating AI companies. I've spent the last 30 years working at the crux of technology and entertainment. My job, and in show business it better be your passion too, is to champion artists and help drive technology which empowers their art, allow them to create things which the audience has never seen before. So you could say I have a vested interest in the topic of AI. But before we go further, it's also not lost on me that as the CTO working in a premier visual effects company, I don't have pretty pictures to show you. That's because I want us to focus on the story and the conversation between us all. And besides, if I gave you specific examples, the topic of AI changes so quickly that this talk would be out of date before I even finish. I thought by having it in a book, it would last a little bit longer. But my career in Hollywood has also seen a number of dramatic technology shifts, some of which I've played a small part in, including building film scanners, building application suites to help artists put entire virtual worlds together, restored old films so that they work on new formats, and worked on renderers, able to bring artist imagination to the silver screen. It is this interplay of creativity and technology that holds my interest most of all, and I do not believe I'm alone in this. The group that hands out the Oscar statues every year is named the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, after all. And indeed, creating technology, especially in innovative tools, is some amount of engineering skill combined with a lot of creativity thrown in. It takes many people with smarts and imaginations to collaborate, explore, try new things in order to invent new ways of telling stories and making entertainment. With that perspective, what happens if AI suddenly does it all for us? What impact would that have on film and television as an art form? And how would that change then impact everyone, from the creators in Hollywood to the audience at home, and maybe to society at large? Would media turn into an echo chamber of generated content being generated after being based on previously generated content with some sort of weird copy machine effect, where every generation degrades? The idea of coming home after a long day and ordering up a new episode of Friends might be a dream for some, but likely a nightmare for others. Setting aside the morals of what it would do to cast and crew, the legal gymnastics seem mind-boggling. But that also, we've forgotten the audience in that. Would we still develop new shared cultural experiences like we were on a break or pivot if AI is generating individualized custom episodes for us? It seems unlikely, right? We might lose that collective experience. Moving on, the social media phenomenon has also laid bare that humans tend to seek content that aligns with their pre-existing perspectives to confirm their point of view, and recommendation systems have only accelerated that. So if we add film and television into that mix, will we ever seek content that makes us question something or inspire us to try something new? This also seems unlikely, especially if we're just asking to be entertained. Well, that's probably enough catastrophizing for a second. It's only one of many future timelines. And I don't believe all of those have to be the negative outcomes they might have implied. So I am hopeful for the future. To guide us towards stepping over the brink and into a brighter future timeline, let's talk a bit about what is a story, and then how stories are told. And maybe we can see how that applies to our situation with AI and remove a little bit of fear and uncertainty. Actually, let's quickly touch on the why a story is told in the first place. I'll mostly gloss over this, but maybe it helps us get us started. Stories are told for entertainment, for passing on knowledge, or more philosophically, as a vehicle to study the human condition. This kind of sounds abstract, but if you think about it, telling the exploits of the time you went camping and lit your socks on fire provides two things, both a laugh and a very important lesson for the future. Fire is indeed hot, and it can burn things. So back to what a story is. And again, with the technical jargon. Stories involve a protagonist, often an actor in a film, but not always. That protagonist then faces some sort of conflict, and their journey through that conflict to resolution is represented by the plot of the story. In film, as in many story forms, this is often presented as a 3-act progression of setup, confrontation, and resolution at the end. Along the way, that story is told through some time period in some place or places. Film again borrows from theatrical history and calls that a set. The resolution of the conflict doesn't always have to be good. It can be bad or sad, but it's whatever is more effective to get the story across. But Hollywood does seem to like a good outcome at the end. But we haven't talked about a key component of a story yet, the audience. Just like you can debate if a tree falls in the woods and no one is around, does it make a sound? If the audience isn't there for a story, what's the point? So what makes a story work? What makes it compelling? Something an audience connects with and then tells others to go see. There are factors, of course, one being emotional connection. Does the audience feel for the protagonist one way or the other? Do they care what happens to them? The message around resolution the protagonist goes through at the end is another factor. Is it relevant? Is it meaningful? Is it inspiring to those hearing the story? Additionally, suspense, action, and jeopardy all play a part. And that using the plot to drive a sense of wanting to find out what happens next. Hollywood's been trying to figure out what makes a story a hit for over 100 years. And given that there's still plenty of news about flops and successes, I don't think they're any closer to figuring it out. Personally, I believe it is a tenuous blend of all of these things, not the least of which is the whim of the world and the state of humanity is at the moment. Which is a different way of saying that stories which become popular have a common style and taste relevant for the times. But I think that's where AI story generation is not yet ready. It's not yet focused on understanding the current environment, asking what style and taste might be appropriate to tell the story within. So that's something we need to think about more. But let's move on to talking about how a story is told. It is consistent through history that there are communal touch points where a bunch of people want to see and experience the same story, even if it is only so they can better chat around the water cooler the following day. Since the beginning of time, the way of telling stories, or mediums if you will, and how those are presented, the platform, the venue, the forum, they have all changed. Consider the earliest humans. They are famous for their cave paintings. But I don't believe they just painted them and left their friends and descendants to ponder what the meaning was. They would have been there with people showing them off, talking about how big the bison was, and how they captured it, jumping around in an animated fashion, going, ugh, ugh. As an aside, it is humorous to see people this very week using large language models to generate software code using caveman speak. And that's a true story, by the way. Thousands of years later, and many stories in between, there were performance spaces like the Odeon at the Acropolis, where people took to the stage to perform for big groups of people. Continuing to skip through history, we then had the printing press, enabling the same work to be more easily distributed to a large audience, and also enabling people to literally pass the story on from one person to another. And we're accelerating now, but back to film-centric history, there were earlier zoetropes and other devices that I won't go into, but they're super fun. But it was the Lumiere brothers in 1895 who kicked off visual motion picture storytelling. They also later showed how to make color motion pictures, but there were many years of black and white film, then talkies where sound was added, before color motion pictures became popular. Another small tidbit, The Wizard of Oz, which is currently being reimagined as an experience at the Sphere in Vegas, which was done using AI tools, was not the first color film, as many people talk about. With them came television and VHS tapes, or Betamax if you want, and more recently, high-quality streaming services. With each of these innovations, they were considered a threat to livelihoods within the film industry at the time. The same concern happened during the transition from film to digital that I experienced. But the motion picture industry and the broader visual entertainment industry has not only persisted, but after a small contraction during each change, has historically grown as a result of each innovation. But the important part is that through all this change, humans have continued to drive creativity in the innovations themselves, trying to create more and trying to create grander stories. Suffice to say, humans curate the story itself, along with how the story is best meant to be consumed. Said in a different way, humans find ways to express themselves and share it with others using the medium that is appropriate at the time. These mediums continue to change and evolve, but that does not mean all past iterations are lost. For example, it's great to see Chris Nolan always making movies using film, like physical film. So it's not all or nothing. We might watch a story on our cell phones while we lounge on the couch, but that is balanced with plenty of collective experiences, be that having a movie night or going to the cinema. Even look at the room today. All of you listening to stories told as a group, so you can consider them. Well, each of us are different. As a species, we have an innate desire to tell stories and express ourselves. We use this to find common ground and share collective experiences, from concerts to cinemas, to discussing the twist at the end of a novel in a book club. And we do this using whatever form makes the most sense. And although each story is unique, the what, the why, and the how have many common elements which seem unlikely to change. Which brings us to the question, is the era of AI any different than when it comes to humans telling stories? When looking at motion pictures, the methods and the tools we use are always changing. So to expect AI to be that different doesn't seem quite right. We still have the innate desire to tell stories to other people, and many reasons why we tell stories. But I hear you murmuring, does that mean that the VFX industry is doomed because these things can create whatever crazy thing you think up? This very brief history that I just skimmed through says that unless AI totally evaporates, we'll just adapt to what AI can do, and those jobs will adapt, and more jobs will get created to support large-scale storytelling in new, unforeseen ways. It will also likely democratize small-scale storytelling. And ignoring AI slop for a moment, there are incredible storytellers out there right now, probably some here in the room at VIC, who are already using this new medium to tell stories. At Wētā, we've been using forms of AI tools or machine learning tools to create artist-driven effects, really for decades, before we even knew to call it AI at all. So we adapt as we always have, just like Hollywood did when televisions were invented, creating new episodic content we all binge watch today. So will AI take over human storytelling? Based on what we've just gone through, if historical innovations, which seemed disruptive at the time, are any indication of the future, then I believe that's not possible. Storytelling and creativity are so fundamental to our experience and how we relate to each other that I don't think it's going to change or be handed over to any technology wholesale. Well, I know it's approaching a full trope to position AI as just a tool. I do believe that AI is a new vehicle through which stories can be told, and it won't be the last one. Remember, after all, that the way you get something from AI right now is that you have to ask for it. You are asking a system to add flavor to the taste and style that you put into your prompt. So I challenge you to be creative. Driven by human creativity, AI can become an extender of imaginations and an executor of ideas, providing a platform for more people to tell stories from their unique perspective. Don't take solutions which do it all for you. Question these things, experiment, much like a camcorder and smartphones have enabled people to experiment with filmmaking in their backyards. There are still many issues to figure out, And I don't think it'll be soon that we'll see any long-form stories being created just by AI alone. It will continue to have traditional methods mixed in. But there will always be an appetite for new ways to create and tell stories, and for ways to engage in shared experiences and consume stories. And at the end of the day, from cave paintings to AI-empowered creativity, it's still the humans leaving their fingerprints in the story, engaging with others to experience the story, all jumping up around and saying, ugh. The end.